Angela, who is 16 years old, went to a party on March 23rd, 2019, telling her folks she would be back by evening. It looked like she was going to a safe place where nothing bad should have happened at a party with people she knew. In the evening, she stopped answering calls, and the people who had spent the night with her behaved strangely, as if nothing had happened, or worse, as if they were trying to hide something. Late at night, her parents got a call that was meant to explain what happened to their daughter, but it only made them wonder more. There were different stories, not enough information to make a clear picture, and each new fact was different from the last. People who had been with Angela had trouble deciding what to say. Some said too little, while others said too much. What did that night really happen? It seems like someone should have looked for her right away. Why did the people around her hide? The absence set off a chain of mysteries, where each new clue raised more questions. We need to look into this case more. Angela Noheli Aguirre Yaguare was born in 2002 into a family that loved and cared for her. She had a great family. Angel Daniel Aguirre and Yerlis Yaguare worked hard to give their kids everything they needed. Her dad was an engineer for the government and was strict but fair. He always put his family's health first. Her mother was a hairdresser and ran a small business out of their house. Neighbors, and sometimes even Angela's friends, would stop by. Their house was always full of laughing, talking, and the sounds of everyday life. It made it feel warm and welcoming, and it was impossible to shake. Angela's bigger sister was more than just a family member. She was also her best friend. They told each other things, thought about the future, and helped each other out. Angela liked helping her mom at the salon when she had free time. She loved playing around with makeup and making up new looks. Sometimes she did nails for her friends, who fell in love with her skills. Angela had a lot of friends. She got along with everyone right away, had a natural charm, and always knew how to make things better. She was full of energy, happiness, and kindness, and people loved her for being honest and open. But even though she was laid back, she had a serious side. She often thought about her future and how to be successful, like what job to get and how to get ahead. The people who raised her showed them how important it is to work hard, be kind, and help others. Everyone who came to their house felt loved and cared for. No one could have thought that one day a terrible tragedy would break up this warm and happy world. He was born into a very rich family. His dad was a businessman, and his mom had a lot of ties in high society. He was able to enjoy benefits that most of his friends could only dream of because of this. Some people couldn't afford the things he owned, the clubs he belonged to, and the freedom to travel and enjoy pleasures that he did. Angela met him through friends they both had. About 3 years ago, they started hanging out with the same people. She didn't pay much attention to him at first, but as time went on, they became more or less friends. Gabriela saw him as a friend and someone to hang out with, but Jose Alberto saw her in a different light. He didn't give up. He texted her a lot, asked her to hang out, and always found a reason to be with her. Angela never felt the same way again, though. He was just a friend to her, and his advances made her feel bad. His close friends knew that he had asked her out more than once, but she always said no. Something happened one night at a get-together with their common friends that made Angela feel uneasy. Her friends pushed her into the water for fun while they were hanging out by the pool. She was so wet that she asked Jose Alberto to help her get changed into something dry. He then offered that they go somewhere private, which was a hint at something else. Angela said no right away. After that, she grew farther away from him and stopped talking to him about personal things. Over time, Being around Jose Alberto made her feel worse. She told her friends about it because she thought he was being too pushy. They told her not to worry about him, but Angela could tell that he was still interested. Still, she kept talking to him, not because she wanted to, but because they were in the same social groups, which made it hard to stay away from him. Angela woke up on March 23rd, 2019, very happy. Her best friend was having a birthday that day, and she wanted to go to the party. She told her parents about it ahead of time, but when it came time to ask for permission, they said no. People didn't think her friend's neighborhood was safe, and her parents didn't want to put their daughter in danger by going with her. Angela tried to change their minds by offering to drive them there, but her parents were adamant in their choice. She sent her friends a message, complaining about how strict her parents were being. She got a message from Jose Alberto Cedeno that same morning. He also asked her to join him in celebrating his birthday. He suggested starting the night at a private club and then going to La Terracaya Island, which is out of the way and can only be reached by boat. Angela was unsure. Since she couldn't make it to the first party, this was her chance to still spend the night with friends, so she said yes to the offer. But there was something wrong. They would probably say no if she told them the truth, which is that the party would be on an island. That's why she decided to leave some things out. When she told her parents about her plans that night, she made sure they knew the get-together would be in a safe place. She made sure everyone knew that there would be an adult chaperone there who was related to the party host, and that it would be a small, private event. They thought about it for a moment, but they didn't want to let their daughter down again after turning her down earlier that day. They were aware of Jose Alberto and knew they couldn't keep Angela from being around her friends. Her father finally agreed, but only under tight conditions. She couldn't drink. She had to call him often to check in, and she had to go home at the agreed-upon time. Angela got ready for the night. As evening came, she carefully picked out her clothes as she stood in front of the mirror. She thought about wearing a dress at first, but in the end chose shorts and a light blouse because they were more relaxed and would be great for an outdoor party. She put on light makeup and braided her hair nicely. A 15-minute drive got us to the club. Her dad was mostly quiet, but before they got there, he told her again, "If something seems off, call me right away." A small group of people were already outside the club when they got there. Angela couldn't go in without a guardian, so she waited. After a short time, Jose Alberto showed up. He was calm and smiling as he met Angela without noticing her father. She quickly said goodbye to her dad, kissed him on the cheek, and then she and her friend left. It was the last time someone would ever see her living. When Angela met Jose Alberto outside of the club, he told her they should go to La Terracaya Island right away. You could only get to the island by boat because it was in the middle of the Caroni River and was far away. He told her that was where the real party was, that their group was already there, and that they could have fun without any rules. He said it was safe, and that only people he trusted would be there. She didn't have much time to think. That night, if she really wanted to enjoy herself, she shouldn't say no, because the boat was already there. She could either go with the group or stay behind by herself, which people around her would have thought was odd. She made the choice to go. The boat was ready at the dock. Jose Zoria, who was Jose Alberto's uncle, owned the boat that would take them to the island. He was the oldest of them all. He was a famous businessman who kept in touch with younger people and often put on events like this. 3 other people were on board: his son Vladimir, Vladimir's girlfriend Jocelyn Barrero, and Orlando Salazar and Wilma Diaz, 2 family friends. Each one of them was a lot older than Angela. As the boat pulled away from the city lights, the people on board laughed, talked loudly, and made guesses about what would happen that night. There were already bottles of booze being passed around without any thought for moderation. People liked to party on La Terracaya Island. Even though there were no fixed buildings there, it was set up to be a great place for gatherings, with a bar, a dance floor, and lounge areas big enough for big groups. No one was keeping an eye on what was going on there. The group went to the middle of the island, where music was playing, as soon as the boat got to shore. Bars with drinks were set up, and the air was heavy with the smell of tobacco and booze. There were lots of people there. Some were dancing, some were sitting at tables, some were talking, and some looked like they were already drunk. The group quickly became a part of the fun. There were lots of drinks, and glasses were always being replaced. No one was keeping track of how much each person drank. A lot of people were around Angela. She was always being raised a toast with, having talks with, and being told to enjoy the night. The party was still going strong as the hours went by and the music got louder. People went back and forth between the bar and the dance floor, hung out in the lounges, and made plans for the rest of the night. At some point, Jose Alberto started to spend more time with Angela. He made sure she was never alone by talking to her all the time and giving her more drinks. The night got more and more crazy. Nothing was organized, and no one was in charge of what was going on. The group kept partying and lost track of time and where they were. People started to spread out across the island. Some kept dancing, while others went off into the dark. The party on La Terracaya Island went late into the night and got less planned as time went on. The guests moved around randomly and blended in with the crowd. The music was too loud, people were drinking too much, and no one was paying attention to the time. In this kind of setting, it was hard to keep track of who was on the island, who was leaving, and who was talking to whom. It was proven that Angela was last seen just before midnight. She had been drinking and talking to people on the dance floor, at the bar, and on the beach. Then she was no longer seen at some point. Afterward, several people said that Angela might have just left to get some peace and quiet. Guests often walked off around the island, relaxed by the water, or found quieter places. So this didn't bother anyone at first. But as time went on, it became clear that she wasn't there. While no one was sure of the exact time that Angela went missing, no one tried to find out what had happened to her. Some partygoers said they thought she had left early or taken a boat back with someone else, but no one cared to check to see if that was true. No one looked for her, called her name, or even texted her. By then, her phone was dead, but no one thought that was a sign of trouble. The party started to wind down at some point. It was getting late, everyone was tired, and the music was getting quieter. At that point, it was clear that Angela wasn't there. Still, no one went out of their way to find her. No one told her parents that she was missing or called them to say she was missing. Maybe the people there didn't want to make a scene or were afraid of what would happen. They decided not to look too deeply into the situation because they were drunk. No one did anything in the end because everyone thought someone else would. No one stayed behind to look for Angela when the group finally made up their minds to leave the island. Everyone else said they would wait until morning, check the area, or look at the river. The last of the guests got on the boat, which pulled away from the beach and headed back. It left the dark, quiet island behind. Angela Aguirre's parents couldn't wait for 8 p.m. when they were meant to pick her up from the party. Her dad got up early and drove to the club parking lot, which is where Angela had said the get-together would happen. He called her right away to let her know he was there. The phone rang, but no one picked it up. He tried again after a short break, But the same thing happened. He didn't freak out at first. It's possible that she didn't hear the call because of the music or because she put her phone in her bag. He waited patiently and looked at the time, but his fear grew stronger as the minutes went by. And again, she never picked up the phone when he called her. What did he do after 30 minutes? He called his wife to see if Angela had called her. In a worried tone, she answered, saying she hadn't heard from their daughter since she left the house that evening. When Angela's parents found out she wasn't at the club, they called her friends to see if anyone could help them find her. They all thought she had been at the club that night, but she hadn't been. They were desperate to find out what was going on and tried to talk to other people at the party, but no one could help them. Even though they didn't know what was going on, they knew something was very wrong. They tried calling Angela 56 times over the next few hours, but her phone would not answer. Their phone rang around 2 a.m. A number that wasn't known showed up on the screen. Her dad picked up the phone right away, hoping to hear her voice. It was actually Jose Alberto's mother. The words she used made me think of a bad dream. She fell off the boat. That's when Angela's parents' whole world fell apart. They didn't know what kind of boat she was talking about. And Angela said she was at a party in a club. How did she get to the water? They asked the woman to explain, but she sounded unsure, like she wasn't sure what had happened herself. There was something wrong. These people had strong feelings that what was going on was much worse than what they were being told. Why did they just now find out about this? Why didn't anyone call before? Why didn't someone call for help right away if their daughter had fallen into the water? The answers they got made them even more scared. They knew something terrible had happened, but they didn't know how terrible the truth would be. Angela's parents knew their worst fears were coming true when they got a call late at night from Jose Alberto's mother. Even though they didn't know the whole story yet, one thing was clear. Things were very bad. Not a single person had tried to find their lost daughter. They held on to the hope that they could still save her if they moved quickly. Right away, at 4 a.m., they called the cops and asked for a search operation right away. On the other hand, they were met with indifference instead of haste. Officially, the police officers on duty said that a person is not lost until 72 hours have passed, and that's when the search would stop. They were told to wait. It's possible that she had lost track of time, her phone's battery had died, or she was just having fun and didn't know it was late. They knew better, though. They were sure that Angela would never just leave like this, and every second that went by without doing anything meant that they were losing valuable time that could have saved her. Angela's parents thought this version of events was crazy. Their daughter had never just vanished without a word, turned off her phone for this long, or broken the deals she made with them. The cops didn't hear, though. They knew that if they did nothing but wait, valuable time would be lost. That's why they did something about it. The first thing her dad did was go to Jose Alberto's family home and demand answers. He was curious about who had been with his daughter, where she had been most recently seen, and who had seen her fall off the boat. But the answers he got were unclear and hard to understand. When Angela went missing, her mother called all of her daughter's friends to see if anyone could tell her where her daughter had been at the time. On the island, though, no one knew she was there. That proved what they were most afraid of. Anna had kept her real plans a secret from everyone on purpose. The parents knew that calling wouldn't be enough, so they turned to social media for help. At 6 a.m., they started posting online, including a picture of their daughter, a description of her, and the last place anyone knew she had been seen. They begged anyone who knew something to come forward. People shared the posts, sent nice messages, and some even offered to help with the search very quickly. There were posts that made some people remember seeing a big group on the island the night before. They remembered seeing young men and women drinking and having fun, and one of them looked like Angela. No one thought much of it at the time. Now, those sightings meant something much worse. Angela's parents knew they had to move right away, not wait for the police to arrive. They went straight to the dock where the boat to the island had left from. There, they tried to ask the staff who had been in charge of the ship and if there had been any reports of strange behavior. But once more, there was quiet. The boat's trips that night had not been being tracked by anyone. Even though it was illegal to be on the water at night, no departures had been reported by police after 5 p.m. As the parents desperately looked for any sign, social media went crazy. Angela's story got a lot of publicity and made people angry. People wanted answers, wanted the search to start right away, and wrote a lot of comments on police pages asking them to do something. Even though the police didn't do anything, Angela's family continued their own probe. They got a group of people together and began searching the banks of the river, knowing that time was running out. But what they were about to find out was much worse than they thought it would be. It took 3 days to look for Angela Aguirre. However, on March 26th, all hope was lost. At 7 a.m., fishermen in the area saw a body bobbing near the bank of the river, its arms and legs caught in the branches. The body was discovered a few miles upstream from where the group said Angela had fallen off the boat. The police were quickly told about the find. After a short time, an investigation team showed up, and within hours, Angela's parents got the news they had been fearing. The body was that of their daughter. The first test only made things more confusing. Since Angela was still wearing a wetsuit and a life jacket, it was very unlikely that she would drown by chance. Official accounts said that the current in the river would have carried her downstream if she had really fallen overboard, but her body was found facing the opposite way, which goes against the rules of hydrodynamics. This means that she couldn't have drowned where the witnesses said she did. The first forensic examination found many signs of physical harm. She had cuts and bruises on her head and face, which showed that she had been hit hard. Besides that, there were signs of an aggressive attack. The stated cause of death was asphyxiation from drowning, but the report said it looked like she might have been unconscious before she got into the water. Angela's parents were very sad. They had known something was horribly wrong, but they had no idea how bad it was. The government didn't say anything, and the police didn't give clear answers. However, the Aguirre family would not keep quiet. They made a public plea for justice and held those responsible accountable. At the same time, people were furious as word of the forensic results spread on social media. It became clear to a lot of people that the case was being hid to protect those involved. Abella's family was set on finding the truth, though. When Angela was found, the first forensic report made it clear that she had been hurt physically, had head injuries, and had lost awareness before she drowned. Some people quickly found these results to be annoying, though. 2 days after the autopsy results were made public, the police launched a second investigation. In this case, the results were very different. According to the new account, there were no signs of foul play, and all the injuries were said to have happened in the water when the people hit each other with rocks. An unfortunate accident was changed as the stated cause of death. The results showed that Angela may have fallen into the water by herself, and that her life jacket may not have worked right. A lot of people were shocked by this finding. Angela's folks didn't believe a word she said. They couldn't believe that the official story of what happened had changed so much in just a few days. What could have caused the wounds on her body? Why did the first forensic report confirm that there was violence but not the second? But the biggest question was how someone wearing a life jacket could die. This was the question that everyone in the country asked. Not a single answer. Angela's parents said out loud that the government was dishonest. They said that someone was using their power and influence to protect those who were guilty. They wanted an outside review and a new forensic analysis to be done by experts from around the world. At the same time, there was more anger on social media. Many people thought that the case had been tried to be hidden and that strong people had messed with the evidence to hide it. More and more people were joining the protests in real life, not just online. Angela's folks wouldn't give up. They knew they weren't just fighting for their daughter, but for all the other families whose cases had been ignored because the system was crooked and people could get away with it. Journalists were interested in the story because it was getting so much attention. Independent news sites did their own investigations and published reports that showed the Venezuelan justice system was corrupt. It was found that witness statements were not always consistent. Documents had been changed in suspicious ways, and important proof had disappeared without a trace. The turning point was when a major independent news source released shocking results. It is said that the suspects' families tried to bribe the judicial system. There was evidence that the case had been closed in return for $100,000 in cash and 3 kilograms of gold. The people was outraged by this news. People called for resignations, arrests, and fairness. No longer were the protests just online. People went out into the streets. Angela's case was no longer just a sad one. It had become a sign of the fight against crime and corruption. The case of Angela Aguirre finally made it to court after months of constant public pressure. But the Venezuelan government made a strange choice. The hearing would not be open to the public. Journalists, campaigners, and even the victim's family were not allowed to watch the trial. It was clear from the start that things were getting harder for Angela's family. The people she lived with started calling her parents with threats and telling them to calm down. Someone sent them an anonymous message, and people were seen hanging out near their house. The hearing happened in spite of all the problems. In the end, José Alberto Chido and José Zorrilla, who was his uncle, were given 29 years in prison. The court said they were violent and did illegal things. What shocked people the most, though, was something else. Every other person at the party was found not guilty. They did not get in trouble for covering up the crime or not doing anything when Angela went missing. A lot of people are angry about this decision. Real justice was demanded, with the argument that the crime could not have been done by just 2 people. Angela's parents tried to change the ruling, but the court wouldn't listen to their new arguments. Even though the hearing was over, justice was never really done. The fact that José Alberto Chido and José Zorrilla were sentenced did not end the case. In fact, it made things even stranger. The parents of Angela Aguirre couldn't believe that the other guests were free. Though they were sure that more people were to blame, the system decided to end the case and act like justice had been done. Right after the decision, they filed an appeal calling for a new investigation and for everyone who was on the island that night to be held responsible. They pushed for more questions to be asked and for access to secret case files. But they ran into problems when they tried to help. The courts didn't feel the need to quickly review the case, and important pieces of evidence that could have linked other people were either missing or weren't taken into account. There were still too many problems. Why was Angela's body found somewhere that didn't seem like it would have been involved in the accident? With a life jacket on, how could she have drowned? Why didn't her friends go look for her right away? Who hurt her in the first place? What did that night really happen? There were no answers to these questions. Even after months, the case was still not moving forward. There was more fighting for the truth from Angela's folks, but they kept getting turned down and doors shut on them. Plus, the more the police tried to hide this case, more and more people were sure that the whole truth had never been told. That's all for today's case. If you want to see more true crime content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Every detail matters. Until next time, stay cautious, stay informed, and stay safe.